Hey, Jamie here, and if you're joining me on Monday morning, welcome to another incredible week that we get here on Earth to continue building the lives and the careers that we want. And why do we want to do that? We want to do it for ourselves, we want to do it for our families, but we also want to do it for others, because as we become more successful, we have more resources, which then allows us to give, to serve, and to contribute to people in ways that we deeply care about, and there's really nothing more fulfilling than that. So, I want to start this video by posing a question to you, which is, what do the world's most successful people all have in common? And they share a lot of things in common. So what we can immediately cross out is responsibilities. Now, there are people in sports, in politics, in business, in religion. There's so many different areas where people are, quote, successful. And so one of the things that we have to do is define success. And what is the derivative of success? So what did they actually do to get there? How did they get there? And by studying, thousands of hours of studying these people across different areas, what we start to see is massive amounts of patterns. And it's not so much what they do that's similar. Instead, it's who are they, their qualities, their characteristics, how they see the world, how they make decisions, their thought patterns, their emotional patterns, their behaviors. And so the point of this video is I want to distill down to one more specific principle. I know we've talked about other principles in past videos, but in this video, I want to talk about what I like to call the better man or the better woman principle. And the idea is that if we apply this principle to ourselves, we will not have a linear progression. We will not have a linear growth in our futures. And we go to bed a better woman or a better man every single night in a way that's going to take us to where we ultimately want to go. And to kind of sum up this intro, there's a quote by Bill Gates that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite quotes by him. But he says, as humans, we significantly overestimate how much we can achieve in 1 year, but at the same time, we significantly underestimate how much we can achieve in a decade. So with that, let's dive into the better man or the better woman principle. So to start, have you ever wondered, how did Michael Jordan become Michael Jordan, or LeBron James, or Tom Brady? Recently with the Super Bowl, he did it again with the Buccaneers. Or how did Michael Phelps? So swimming is an individual sport, and oftentimes we can look at those and say that can be harder because you don't have the team to rely on. How did he become the most successful and decorated Olympian in history? Or we can look at examples outside of sports. So, for example, Oprah. How did Oprah become the first female black billionaire in America in an industry that was primarily dominated with white men talking about subjects that nobody dared talk about on TV? Or how did Barrack Obama become the first black president of America? Or we can look at financial examples, so investors. Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio are two well-known names. How did they become arguably two of the most successful investors in history? And then there's the tech space, and everyone's familiar with the tech, but going back a little bit, but Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are the most well-known. And then there's also Larry and Sergey of Google. And then there's Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And there's so many other people coming out. And then there's, Sarah Blakely, Jamie Kern-Lima. And even recently, so with the Bumble IPO, Whitney Wolf became the youngest self-made female billionaire in America through tech. So all these people have been successful in very different areas in very different ways. But the question is what do they have in common? And in a very significant and specific way, we can narrow it down to they were focused not on the competition, but on becoming the absolute best that they could become themselves. So they focused on being a better man or a better woman at whatever it is that they specifically did, their craft, their focus. And by becoming the absolute best that they could become, they naturally had to play the game at a higher level, because they would hit the level of the competition. And then, if they did exactly what everyone else was doing, well, they'd be incrementally or just a little bit better than everyone around them. So instead, by not focusing on the competition, not worrying about what other people are doing, but instead, how can I become the absolute best that I can become at what I do? They had to be innovative. They had to create. And it was through that creation that they allowed themselves to play the game at a higher level and make massive leaps and bounds over wherever other people are, which is their competition. And a quote. So Michael Jordan, major quote from him was, "The reason they can't beat me is because they're all trying to get to where I am. And I'm focused on becoming the best that I can be. That's why they'll never beat me." So what's important for us to know is that all of these different people, none of them viewed success as an overnight thing. And instead, they viewed it as a very long-term and everlasting and ever-progressing and an infinitely looping process of believing in something, taking action on it, getting a result, whether that was good or bad, and then they gave them feedback. And they learned from actually, taking action, getting a result. And then they would adjust their beliefs, take more action, and then get a result, whether better or worse again. They get more feedback, beliefs, action, results, and then feedback, and they just kept looping. So none of these people were born into this world as these incredibly monumental, successful people. But instead, what they did was they literally built who they are today or who they were in the past. They built themselves every single day, day after day after day. They built and constructed both their mind, their body, as well as their spirituality in order to get themselves to the place where they could become the person who's capable of doing these incredible things. So what we all need to realize is that these big grand visions that we have for our lives and our careers, they're not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a long-term, ever-progressing process that's going to take iteration after iteration of doing something, not getting the outcome that we want, learning from it, getting better, and consistently building ourselves to become that person. And it's going to take, likely, assuming how big those dreams are, it's going to take years to get there. And similar to all the other people, the examples I just gave, none of those people got there short term. It took them years, a lot of them decades, in order to actually get to where they are. And that goes back to the Bill Gates quote. We overestimate ourselves in a year and we significantly underestimate ourselves in a decade. But the problem is most people give up mid-process. They stop building themselves. They stop getting better. So the principle for this video, which is focusing on the better man or the better woman principle, pretty much all we're saying is every single day, we need to be able to ask ourselves, am I laying down in bed? Am I a better man than I woke up? Am I a better woman than I woke up? Am I smarter? Am I healthier? Am I happier? Are my relationships stronger? Whatever it is that you're focused on, whatever needs the nurturing, the building, the growing, we need to do that during the day. Every single day, are we getting better? Are we learning more? Are we developing our skills in order to play at a higher level, the game at a higher level? And that could be a political game. It could be a business game. It could physically be a sport game. So whatever it is that we want to do, we need to make ourselves better every single day. And the reason that is so important is because as we build experiences, so you think of our mind as a giant web of experiences. As we keep adding different experiences and all those experiences are connecting, what we're doing is we're compounding connections. And as we begin to compound the connections over time, we'll eventually become creative. We'll think of things that no one else thought of because that's what our experiences have provided us with. We're not focusing on other people, but instead we're focusing on becoming the best that we can become, which means we're going to have more experiences and more points to connect, which is going to compound until eventually the point where we can outcompete others, or we come up with something that will get us to the ability to achieve our lives or career goals. So then that leads to the question of how do we actually implement this better man or this better woman principle into our actual lives? And I would start with most people make decisions based on extremes. So it's either I'm going all out and I'm doing the extreme here, or I'm not doing anything at all. And so what we need to realize is there's a gradient for everything. Life is negotiable. Everything in life is negotiable. And also when we think about decisions, we've all heard 80-20 principle, Pareto principle, 80% there and the last 20% causes 80% of the effects. Well, we can think about life in terms of gradients too. So in terms of the better man or better woman principle, sometimes you're not going to want to do the workout. Sometimes you're not going to want to read 50 pages in the book. Sometimes you're going to have this thing that you're not going to want to do, and you told yourself you'd do it. And so if you back out of it, then you end up doing nothing. And so the way that instead we should think about it is, what can I still do? Something is better than nothing. Something is always better than nothing. And that's where the gradient exists. That's where we can say, all right, what can I still do that is something that will still allow me to go to bed a better man or a better woman than I woke up? And if it's a workout that you decide you don't want to do, okay, go for a walk, 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk, go around the block, something. That's part of the gradient. It's something is better than nothing. Reading one page, and there have been days where I really don't want to read, but I still read one page because it makes me one page smarter than I woke up. And in any area of your life, whether it's a sport, okay, do one set. If it's, apply it to whatever it is that you're focused on right now. And I'm sure that you're already having thoughts about what you could be doing. Something's better than nothing. And we want to do that every single day. And that leads me into another point that I want to bring up, which is most people don't read. On average, 18-year-olds and higher in America, we watch 3 to 4 hours of TV a day. That's pretty wild. And if we were to just cut that by a little bit, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and read, we'd be blown away at how much we could improve our lives. But the thing is a lot of people, and most of us grew up being forced to read stuff that we just didn't care about. And it was through those negative experiences of reading about things that we really didn't care about or enjoy that most people stopped reading. And again, then if we did go to college, then we're forced to read textbooks, which are drier than pretty much anything else written besides maybe the encyclopedia. And so we're forced to read in our past things that are horribly dry, uninteresting, and we just don't care about or enjoy. And so then we live the rest of our lives believing that, nope, I got my education, I went to college, or, I graduated high school and I'm done. Education is not a stepstone thing. We're not there for 5 years, 10 years, 4 years. Like, education is an ever progressing thing that never stops. Our mind never stops growing. And if it does stop growing, it means that we're not learning or gaining new experiences, and we literally start dying. Like, any muscle that's not worked out atrophies. Our mind does the exact same thing. So what I challenge you to think about is, don't think of education as something that you buy and go to and force yourself to do. We're consistently building our minds, whether it's skills, whether it's knowledge, if it's new experiences, if it's a new language. I mean, how we learn massively affects every other area of our life. And it keeps us healthier. It keeps us engaged. It keeps us challenged and wanting more for our lives and our careers. So I challenge you, don't think of education as something that you buy and go to. It's something that for the rest of our lives, we're always improving our minds every single day. And that's also why when we graduate from high school or college, it's called commencement. To commence, to begin, to start. So when we think about our formal education, our structured education, that's just the beginning. That's the foundations. It's up to us to take ourselves to new heights. So now the last point I want to share with you is the principle or the idea of we always have two businesses, or we always have two lives, or we always have two careers. And this comes back from, there's many different ways that this has been talked about, whether it's the strategist and the tactician, or the builder and the operator. But the idea is that we have a life or a career right now. Our current situation, our life situation right now, we are operating it. We're in it. We're doing the day-to-day. We're doing what needs to be done in order to put food on the table, to still have our jobs, to still have relationships, to keep ourselves relatively healthy and fed. Like, we're doing things that are necessary to operate, to maintain what we have. But the question is are we also building, which is the second life? And now in terms of a business, there's always the business you're in and operating now, but then there's the future business, which is what are you building for the future? And this will not exist if you don't build it today. And just like your career, you have your current career where you are right now, but then also what do you want for the future, your future career? Well, you need to do what you need to do today, but you also need to be building this today. And so in any area of your life, you have the current and then you have the future. You have the operator and you have the builder. You have the tactician, which is the one actually doing things. And then you have the strategist laying out the framework and the blueprint of how that thing is actually going to be built. So that's another thing for you to think about your life is, am I only maintaining? Is all I'm doing just operating? Or am I also building a better life and future? So to wrap up this video, I want to again pose that question of, are you going to bed a better man or woman every single day? And if you are, it's also important for you to know that, with the Bill Gates quote, we overestimate a year and underestimate a decade. Your growth, your personal growth, your relationships, your wealth, your career, it's not going to be linear. Because you're growing every single day, you're going to compound. You're going to have an exponential growth curve for your life. And it's important for you to be able to see that long-term vision. And then if you're not going to bed a better man or a woman every day, then it's important for you to know that because you're only maintaining, you're only operating, you're not doing any of the building, well, it's important for you to know that you're going to have a linear growth curve. Your slope is fixed. And so in the future, you're going to have more roughly of what you already have. Now, one way or another is not better than, there is no right or wrong answer to how we want to live our lives. It's what do you want? What are your goals? And then in order to get there, do you need to continue building to get there? If you already have everything you want in your life, awesome. Maintain, enjoy, you did it. But if you want more for your life, your career, and my belief is we should always try to become better and more successful, because then we have more resources to give back, which again is helping other people, paying it forward. But so 3 things for this week for actual tangible action items. So 1, start by defining what are the things that I actually need to get better at. So is that skill? Is that knowledge? Is that learning something new? Is it relationships? Is it improving or strengthening a relationship? Is it repairing a relationship? Or if it's your health, how do you want to begin to improve your health? So that's point 1, is narrow down specifically what do I actually need to do daily in order to become a better man or woman, however you define that. So now the second point is you need to actually create a plan, which is knowing day in and day out, what do you need to be doing? What you don't want to do is become victim of decision fatigue, which is literally every single day you wake up and you're like, oh, what am I going to do today? That gets exhausting. So instead, what you do is lay out your week, Sunday night, plan Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then most of Sunday. And you literally lay out 7 days every single week with specific outcomes that you're going to achieve on that day. So you know how you're going to become a better man or woman every day. It's a plan. And then you just need to execute. And then the third and final part for you is stop defining success based on other people around you. Success is not determined by the competition. Success is determined by yourself. What are you capable? Again, going back to Michael Jordan's quote, he became the absolute best that he could become, and naturally he outperformed everybody. And so we want to think of it the exact same way for ourselves. What do we want for our lives and our careers? That's our success. We need to figure out who is the man or woman that I need to become in order to be able to actually achieve that. And then I do that every day. And by growing every day, I will naturally become more creative, more innovative, more inspired. I'll work harder and outperform other people around me because we're not paying attention to them. We're focused on ourselves and achieving this goal. And that goal oftentimes is going to be significantly past the competition. And that's the true success. When you define your own and you achieve it based on your own vision, your own image of the future. So have an awesome week. I'm excited for you, and I will see you in the next video. Hold up. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, do so, because I'd love to be able to send these videos to you every week, Monday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. I'd love to be able to start the week with you and continue contributing to your success through this content. And then also, if you've been thinking about making a big life or career change and you're not sure how to think about that, I have free videos for you to get started and see what that process would look like on my website, which is redstonecoaching.com. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.